Welcome to this overview of the relationship between Parliament and government. As usual, the learning materials for this topic can be found in the description below the video, in order of appearance. The relationship between Parliament and the government lies at the centre of the UK's constitutional order. It is shaped not by a strict separation of powers, but by a deliberate fusion of legislative and executive authority. Yet, as Weber argues, Parliament's role is not to eliminate conflict between political actors but to manage that conflict. Parliament provides the formal setting in which disagreements about public policy are channeled, contested and, ideally, resolved within constitutional norms. This starting point underscores why the government must remain accountable to Parliament, and why Parliament retains the institutional and constitutional responsibility to scrutinise the actions of the executive. J.A.G. Griffith identified delegated legislation as a crucial illustration of this constitutional dynamic. In analysing its significance, he emphasised how the growth of delegated powers strengthens the executive while simultaneously increasing Parliament's supervisory burden. Griffith, along with Ryle and Wheeler-Booth, noted that Parliament's procedures are built around the expectation that ministers will lead legislative and political decision-making, reflecting a constitutional order where Parliament enables the government to govern, but retains authority to question and restrain it. This understanding resonates with Walter Bagehot's classical analysis of the English Constitution. Bagehot described cabinet government as a system defined by close cooperation between Parliament and the executive, with the House of Commons ultimately determining whether a government continues in office. For Bagehot, the executive's efficiency and Parliament's legitimacy were interdependent. Neither branch could fulfill its role without the other. Yet Griffith's later work, especially his articulation of the political constitution, challenged the notion of Parliament as a passive or ceremonial actor. He argued that constitutional meaning arises through political practices, not judicial enforcement. Parliamentary scrutiny, through debates, committees and political contestation, constitutes the primary mechanism for controlling the government. Weber reinforces this view by observing that parliamentary conflict is not a constitutional flaw but the method by which the political constitution operates. A key aspect of this scrutiny occurs through the examination of government bills. Griffith's study of the legislative process highlighted that while the government dominates the introduction and structure of legislation, Parliament, especially through committees, retains the capacity to reshape and refine bills. McEldowney's analysis of Griffith's work emphasises that parliamentary influence cannot be measured solely by the frequency with which government proposals are defeated. Instead, influence is exerted through amendment, negotiation, pressure and the threat of political embarrassment. Research by Thompson on public bill committees indicates that, despite frequent criticism, these committees continue to exert meaningful influence, particularly in the detailed examination of bills and the questioning of ministers. Norton similarly argues that the House of Commons remains a policy influencer, even when it is not a policy originator. Such influence reflects Parliament's constitutional function, not to govern, but to hold to account those who do. This scrutiny role extends beyond the Commons. The House of Lords, with its expertise and revising function, contributes significantly to legislative quality. McGuinness's statistical analysis from the House of Commons library demonstrates the volume of amendments proposed and accepted in the Lords, reflecting the Chamber's constitutional contribution despite its lack of democratic mandate. House of Lords Constitution Committee reports often challenge excessive executive power, particularly regarding pre-legislative actions and expenditure. The committee has warned against governmental practices that preempt Parliament, underscoring repeated concerns that the executive sometimes acts as if parliamentary approval were merely procedural rather than substantive. Financial oversight is another vital mechanism. The Pact Concordat of 1932 and broader Treasury accountability frameworks ensure that government expenditure remains subject to parliamentary scrutiny. Treasury evidence before the House of Lords Constitution Committee has repeatedly affirmed that financial control ultimately rests with the Commons, continuing the long-standing principle that public funds require parliamentary consent. The political constitution also relies heavily on conventions, most notably the principle of collective ministerial responsibility. Ministers must support government policy publicly, ensuring clarity of accountability. Griffith and Harlow both observed that such conventions underpin the effective working of the political constitution by ensuring that Parliament knows whom to question, criticise or remove. Without these conventions, responsible government would weaken considerably. However, the government's dominance of parliamentary time and agenda cannot be ignored. Griffith, Ryle and Wheeler Booth highlight how government control of the timetable shapes the legislative process. While opposition days, backbench business and private members' bills exist, they do not offset the structural advantage enjoyed by the executive. This reality supports Griffith's broader claim that the political constitution relies on political rather than legal constraints. Political pressure, reputational cost and loss of confidence remain more powerful checks than judicial intervention. Yet Parliament can and does resist governmental overreach. Reports of the House of Lords Constitution Committee repeatedly show instances where the Lords has required the government to rethink or withdraw controversial provisions. Post-legislative scrutiny, as examined by Kelly and Suchinia, constitutes another developing area of parliamentary influence, allowing Parliament to evaluate the effectiveness of legislation after implementation. This function enriches the accountability framework and highlights areas where executive action has fallen short. The Parliament Acts illustrate Parliament's ultimate constitutional authority over the legislative process, ensuring that the elected Commons can prevail over the unelected Lords. Although rarely invoked, they reaffirm that the relationship between the government and Parliament is structured around democratic legitimacy. The scholarship of Griffith, Webber and McEldowney collectively demonstrates that Parliament's capacity to influence and scrutinise the government is more extensive than often assumed. While the executive possesses considerable advantages, Parliament maintains both formal and informal tools to challenge, amend, restrain and direct governmental action. The health of the political constitution depends on active engagement, robust contestation and the effective management of political conflict within the parliamentary arena. Thank you for your interest in this topic. We hope that this lesson was helpful to you and are looking forward to seeing you again soon.